We are in Unit 1. This is going to be Lesson 1.1, and our goal here is to learn to write numerical expressions and order of operations. So, first question, what is a verbal expression? A verbal expression is simply a mathematical phrase that contains words. Okay, so a verbal expression is when we write it out in words. A numerical expression is a mathematical phrase that contains only numbers and operation symbols. And by that, we mean things like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, etc., etc. So if we look at some keywords here, when I'm talking addition, some words you might see is something like plus. One of the main keywords that we see is sum. That means addition. More than. You've got things like total, maybe. Okay, things that for subtraction, the key word that we usually use is difference. You can also use things like simply subtracted. You might do less. You might do less than. Now, when we do less than, this one is interesting because it switches the order. Okay, so remember that when you do, like if I said something like 7 is less than 8, then what you're doing is 8 minus 7 there. Multiply, the key word that we use is product. Might even see the word times in there. Or per is another key. Sometimes they'll say something like each ticket is $5 per ticket or something like that. Division, we have this key word which is quotient. Okay, you might be trying to find each value, something like that, okay? So those are just some key words to look for in the verbal expressions. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off and we're going to try to translate a verbal expression into a numerical expression. So when we start off, the first thing I would tell you is try to highlight or underline or circle, things like that. So if I look at this first one, what I notice is I have the number 1. I have this keyword plus. 8 is another number. I have this keyword divided by 3. Okay, so literally we just write that in order. So 1 plus 8 divided by 3. And that would be our expression, our numerical expression. Let's try the next one. If I look at this one, I have 7, a number, times 15, and then we go to minus 2 times 9. So 7 times 15 minus 2 times 9. Another way you could write this, and I just want you to see this, is start getting used to seeing things written in parentheses, because we write them in parentheses a lot. Now, one thing you don't see me using is the X to mean multiplication. And the reason we don't do that is because we start using X here real soon. All right, let's try the next one. Here it says, translate the sum, that's going to mean addition, of 5 and 9. Now, that is a key here. When we do it like this, that means we're going to have groupings because they want us to add the 5 and 9 together first. Then we're going to divide that by 2. Okay, so the sum of 5 and 9 divided by 2. So that's how we would write those 3 into numerical expressions. Okay, let's try another one. It says bowling. So we're going to focus here just on a story problem of bowling. It says a person's handicap in bowling is usually found by subtracting the person's average from 200, multiplying by 2, dividing by 3. Okay? So subtracting the person's average from 200, multiplying by 2, and dividing by 3. And if you notice, they use commas, which means that tells us what we're doing first, then second, then third. So if I look here at this one, it says Marley's bowling average is 170. Write a numerical expression to find Marley's handicap. So we're going to put some groupings in here. We're going to go 200 minus her average. Then we're going to multiply that by 2. And then we're going to divide that by 3. Okay? And that's what that would look like. All right. Now, the second part to this is evaluating numerical expressions. So before we start, let's just talk real quick about exponents. Let's make sure we've got some terms down. The B here, that's going to stand for the base. The E stands for the exponent. Okay? So to write as a numerical expression 4 to the third power, what that means is it's going to be 4 raised to the third power. So to evaluate an expression means to find its value. So if I ask you to evaluate 4 to the third power, what that really means is 4 times 4 times 4. And when we do that, we have 4 times 4, 16, times 4 is 64. The button you're going to be looking for on the calculator is what we like to call the caret button. And it will look like that for the most part. If you are using a different calculator, there are some other possibilities. Different calculators might use something like this or like this. Okay, so if you're using a different calculator than the TI-30X2S, you might be one of the green ones, but the TI-30X2Ss, they use that one in purple. So if a numerical expression contains more than one operation, then the rule that lets you know which operation to perform first is called the order of operations. So let's quickly review what is the order of operations. So the first thing we do is we do the parentheses, or what we call the grouping symbols. The second thing we do then is we do exponents if they're in there. The third thing we do is we do multiplication and division, but we do it in a specific order. We do it left to right. And then the fourth and final thing we do is we do addition and subtraction. And again, we do that left to right. Okay, so that's the order that we do problems in. All right, so let's try a few. We're going to start off with just evaluating. So 2 to the 4th, remember that means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. It means we take the base of 2, multiply it to itself 4 times. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. Over here, 4 to the 5th, we'd go 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. We take our calculator here, and we literally go 4 caret 5, and that's going to give us 1,024. All right, so let's go on. Let's continue working a few. So now we're going to use the order of operations. So if I look at this problem, I will notice that the whole thing is addition or subtraction. Since addition and subtraction is on the same level, we start at the left and we're going to work towards the right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go 20 minus 7. That's 13. Plus 82 minus 711. Next, I'm going to start again left to right. 13 plus 82. That's going to give me 95 minus 711. And then what I'm simply going to do is I'm going to do that subtraction. 95 minus 711. And that's going to get us negative 616. Okay, let's try another one. Now, if you notice on this one, we have some grouping symbols. So that means we're going to do all of the top, all of the bottom, so all of the numerator, all of the denominator, and then do the division part. So I'm going to start off 4 plus 5. That's going to get me 9. 9 squared, that's 81. Then I'm going to go 7 minus 4 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. And now I divide 81 divided by 9, gives me an answer of 9. Okay, let's try the next one. Now on the next one, you'll see that we have a lot of grouping symbols in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start in the innermost. So we're going to start off and we're going to do 3 minus 2. So I have 15 minus 10 plus 3 minus 2 is 1 squared plus 6. My next step then is I'm going to do the 1 squared. Well, 1 squared we know is 1. 1 times itself. So now I'm going to go 15 minus 10 plus 1 is 11 plus 16. Now we're just left with addition and subtraction. So we start at the left, work to the right. 15 minus 11 is 4 plus 16. That's going to give us 20. Okay, on this last one here, we start off and we notice that we have things going on in the numerator, things going on in the denominator. So therefore, we need to do all of the top, all of the numerator, all of the denominator, and then simplify. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go 2 to the third. So 2 times 2 times 2, that's going to give us 8. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm then going to go 8 minus 5, and that gives me 3. Then I'm going to come down here, 15 plus 9. That's going to get me 24. So I bring that over, and then I have a fraction. 3 over 24, we're just trying to simplify it because 3 cannot be divided by 24 evenly. So I'm just going to simplify. 3 goes into both. So I'm going to divide by 3. I'm going to divide by 3. And when I do that, I would be left with 1 over 8. And that would be my final answer. Remember, we talked last Friday that if you need to, you can type in 3 fraction 24, press equals, and it will give you that value also. All right, last question here. So it says Thursdays are student days at LSC Theater. Student tickets are $5. Popcorn refills are free. You will buy a ticket and a 20-ounce bottle of water, and you'll split the cost of a large tub of popcorn and a large candy with a friend. How much money should you bring? So let's list out, what are you paying for? First thing we're paying for is we're paying for a ticket. We're going to add that to a bottle of water. Then we're going to add to it half of a large popcorn. Plus half a candy. Okay, now we're going to write that into an a numerical expression. So let's go through, put some numbers in here, and then we'll work it out. So I'm going to start in ticket. We know that's $5. A bottle of water. Let's see, bottle of water. Let's go with a 20 ounce, right? It's a 20 ounce, so that's $5. And then half of a large popcorn, which is $7.50, plus half of a candy, which is $3.50. And now we simply work that out. So if you notice, we have some multiplication. So 5 plus 5, half of $7.50 is $3.75. Half of $3.50 is $1.75. Then at this point, we just start in and we work left to right. It's all addition. So we literally are just going to go 5 plus 375 plus 175. And that ends up giving us $15.50 is what you're going to spend on that. Okay, and that is what we're talking about today with numerical expressions and verbal expressions.